Hello everyone. I've just come back from my holiday. It's probably why you've been seeing back-to-back videos from Shivani in the past 2 weeks. Honestly, I don't have any content for you this week, and I'm going to use the reminder of this week to research content that I think you guys are searching on the internet and try and make more videos on those. But something did catch my attention while I was doing a quick research. I saw these videos by a few popular YouTubers who basically had the point that there were many law students who had graduated from college and were making a meager salary of 10,000 rupees a month or 15,000 rupees a month, and sometimes they were even working as Swiggy Blinkit vendors. I don't know if that's true, but I do know that there are a lot of people who, substantially large number of people who graduate from law college, and they probably start out at 10,000 rupees a month if they're lucky. The norm is 5,000 to 7,000, depending upon which region you're from in India. But I don't think that that is a dire situation. I think it is a case of poor skill sets. I'm sure there are many people on YouTube who've spoken about this. But I want you to approach this, if you're one of those, who's working on a low salary just post graduation and wondering when the big bucks are coming your way. I want you to think of the problem a little differently. Why do you think you're not making big bucks right now? It's clearly, one, you don't have the right skills, you're not able to deposit the level of confidence that is generally required to be put in or given to a client. So, and that's why you're not commanding the big bucks, because automatically, and I'm talking purely from a litigation scenario. It's different for corporate, and I'll deal with that situation later. But if you're someone who understands the law well, you're able to explain it really well to clients, do very good legal research, find precedents fast, and write well, then you should very quickly be able to turn around and make good money. And if you're able to show that consistently over a period of 5 years, 7 years, the sky is the limit. So if you're not making money today, it's only a reflection of the skills that you are able to bring to the table. And I would also argue that if you're somebody who's interested in litigation right off the bat, and you go to a senior, and a senior says, "Well, I'll hire you, but I'll pay you 5,000 or 8,000." You have to ask yourself, how much are you going to learn from that senior? You have to do that research. If you think that you're going to get the opportunities of showing up in court, building face time with clients, getting a chance to do legal research, honing your skill set, then I think even if it's 5,000 or 8,000, think of it as an investment. Think of it as a 5-year or 6-year investment. You work with a senior, you build those skills, and then over a period of time you get good and you will be able to walk independently. One way to look at this is to see how many of the seniors existing juniors, how long are they there? If generally you note that within a 4-year timeline or a 5-year timeline people are leaving the office, that's probably a good office to go to, because it means that they're staying there for the experience, gaining experience, and they're leaving. And you might also hear stories about how some seniors do help their juniors when they move out by referring them cases. So if you're hearing stories like that, you can put a checkbox, and it's probably worth working in that office for a few years, even if they're not going to pay you much. Because what's important is building those skill sets, and once those skill sets are done, the money will slowly come in. Now with corporate, generally at the high end of corporate law, it's very templatized. Salaries are very templatized. What I mean by that is when you graduate and you're in corporate, salaries are probably in the range between 80,000 to 1.5, depending upon which firm you land in, which tier law firm you land in, and eventually, if you keep following the process there, you will get the necessary experience. And at some point, you'll interview at a tier one, and then they'll bump up your pay. So it's kind of taken care of. At the high end, it doesn't matter if it's a tier two corporate law firm or if it's a tier three corporate law firm, as long as you're within that pay range and you're doing matters that the industry generally understands, right? What I mean by that is generally what they see day in, day out. Like, for example, in a transaction law firm, they're used to looking at acquisitions, they're used to looking at investment transactions. So if you're one of these firms which do this kind of typical corporate work, corporate transactional work, you gain experience. Again, your salary will go as per which firm you jump to. If you jump to a tier one, it'll match with the batchmates who probably make more than you when they join at a tier one. So it's not that big of a deal. But there are some folks who don't make it to these established firms, and they start out at a startup law firm, or they start out at tier 3, tier 4 law firm, and they're not necessarily doing typical corporate work, that is transactional work like fundraising and acquisitions, and they're doing commercial transactions. They'll do a fundraising transaction, it may or may not come. And the problem with working in these firms is because you're not doing the typical kind of industry work, it becomes difficult to transition into bigger and better firms and also increase pay. I know this because I was one of them, right? And I managed to do that transition. So the way you kind of work around in these kind of scenarios is you try to do a lot of free matters for individuals. One thing that I did when I was in the scenario, I needed to learn fundraising work to go to bigger and better law firms, is I did a lot of free. I went and offered my services for free to startups at an incubator. And when I did get some of these free matters, I sat with friends who had the requisite experience, and they showed me how to do the work. It is a little painful. It's not easy. I mean, if I get a couple of comments on how to do this or asking me how to do this below this video, I'll probably do a video on how you can make that switch. And generally, I networked with a lot of people in the industry and kind of learned how these transactions are done. And I had a general sense of how it was done. And then I cracked one such interview at a tier 3 law firm. And I went there, and then I started doing regular run-of-the-mill work. And I used that experience to leverage opportunities at other places. So this is how the system works. At the beginning of time, when you graduate law school, if you're not making much money, it really shouldn't worry you so much, because you're still probably in your 20s, you're in mid-20s, and it's fine if you don't see money for, maybe it's rich of me to say that it's fine if you don't see money for a few years. But the larger point that I'm trying to make over here is you need to focus, the reason why you're not making the industry standard money is one of the reasons, right? Like, you probably didn't go to a top law school in the country, and you didn't graduate, or you didn't have these set of processes that most of these top law schools have, where kids who graduate get into these tailor-made jobs, or you're a first-gen lawyer, you don't have access, and you're trying to do all of this stuff on your own. It can be one of many reasons, and that is expected. That is expected, and it's also the case in a lot of countries. We have this misconception that everybody who graduates from law school in the US makes 100,000, but that's not true. There's a good number of people who graduate from the US, and they start. Some of them make like $25,000 the entire year, or $30,000 an entire year. If you convert it to INR, it probably seems they still make substantially a lot more. But believe me, 30,000 in the US for a year is as bad as making 15,000 rupees a month in India. So you also have to think about it from a purchasing power parity. So it's not true that everyone who graduates law just starts out amazing, and what you make in terms of remuneration is directly proportional to your skill set. So you know what, here's another piece of news for you. Shivani is probably going to go on her holidays, so the next couple of weeks is me doing a lot more of these videos, back-to-back videos, and I look for some interesting content in the hope that we can connect better through YouTube. And one last thing, I'm really sorry about production quality this week. My iPhone isn't working, so I'm shooting on my laptop. I promise we're working on that, and that production quality will get better. Thank you, and I look forward to doing more videos like this.